We just witnessed something truly shocking. The sons of King Von and FBG Duck officially linked up, breaking a legendary internet feud. But Lil Durk's sudden reaction is what has everyone talking. His message has fans debating the future of this rivalry. So please subscribe. We watched a viral clip online showing King Von's young son, Devin Bennett Jr., hanging out with FBG Duck's son, and honestly, nobody knew how to react. These two children carry the heavy weight of Chicago's absolute deadliest hip-hop war. Right in the middle of this chaos is Lil Durk, the superstar who signed King Von. From his current spot inside a federal holding cell, Durk sent a surprising response to what the world was watching unfold. To understand why this moment hit so hard, you and I must examine exactly who these fathers were to Durk. King Von, born Devin Davon Bennett on August 9, 1994, was a legendary Chicago rapper, linked with the Black Disciples on Chicago's South Side. He quickly became a pioneer of the brutal drill music genre, earning massive respect for his raw storytelling and style, especially on his 2018 hit Crazy Story, and his 2020 track, Took Her to the O, both certified triple platinum. FBG Duck, born Carlton Weekly, was Von's ultimate rival in every single way on those dangerous Chicago streets. Duck's tragic end came from a bitter war between O-Block and a rival faction of the Gangster Disciples, a conflict captured in brutal diss tracks traded back and forth between Duck and the late King Von. They traded threatening tracks and street warfare, but in the end, this tragic rivalry left both young stars dead. One was shot 16 times outside a high-end store, while the other was gunned down in Atlanta. Now, their kids are growing up fatherless. So when these two boys finally met up, everyone immediately wondered how Lil Durk would react. Remember, Durk is no mere bystander in this saga. He is the central figure here. On November 6, 2020, his close friend King Von was shot and killed. That massive loss completely devastated Lil Durk. He dedicated his album, The Voice, to Von, honoring him on stage and in interviews. But federal prosecutors now argue that Durk's grief turned into something far darker than a musical tribute. Durk was arrested in October 2024 on federal murder-for-hire charges. The plot allegedly targeted rapper Quando Rondo in Los Angeles. Back in August 2022, feds claimed the attempted hit was direct revenge for the murder of King Von. So, we have a music icon behind bars facing a possible life sentence, watching from a federal jail as his late brother's kid hangs out with the son of the rival who allegedly had a bounty on his head. So, what was Durk's actual message to this moment? Whether it was love, pain, or a warning, it carries immense weight. To truly understand it, you and I have to go back to the very beginning. We have to go back to Chicago, straight to the infamous streets of O-Block. The South Side has birthed some of the most raw hip-hop and music history, but it has also fueled endless, devastating cycles of real-world violence. This massive feud between O-Block and Tookaville did not start with Von and Duck. It started way before the major record deals or streaming numbers. It was a brutal block war. Neighborhood sets clashing daily. By the time these rappers put it in music, endless blood had already been spilled. Our team tracked how O-Block emerged on the South Side, serving as a main hub for this active street gang. According to official court documents filed in this case, both Durk and Von were named as high-ranking figures inside the Black Disciples street gang. Waging a war of lyrical diss tracks, King Von grew up in Parkway Gardens, famously known as O-Block. It is one of Chicago's most dangerous projects. Von watched loved ones head straight to prison or early graves. Growing up, Von constantly found himself on the wrong side of the law. His first sentence came at 16 for armed robbery, while FBG Duck lived on the opposite side. Duck repped Tookaville, while Von was O-Block through and through. Duck flew the banner of a rival crew. Once both started rapping with millions of views, dedicated fans, and major media attention, they dragged their real-world war straight into the digital age, shaking the entire hip-hop world. In January 2019, Von joined Memo 600 on the viral remix of Exposing Me. Subscribe now as we unpack how King Von and Memo 600 traded brutal bars, detailing real-life street rivalries. The response was immediate. On February 4th, rival rappers FBG Duck and Ruga dropped their own scathing remix. That exchange set a dangerous new tone. The gloves were off, the disses went viral, and you and I were watching. Duck's murder ultimately stemmed from this relentless feud between O-Block and Tookaville, a Gangster Disciples faction, which was fully documented in a series of brutal rap tracks featuring scathing disses between Duck and King Von. What set this rivalry apart from most rap beefs, though, was that neither side was rapping about some fictional street fantasy. These were actual locations, real names, and real crimes. The feud played out through viral diss records and bloody, real-world violence. Then came the hit track, Took Her to the O by King Von, released months before Duck's death, which allegedly Target dissed him by name and poured gasoline on the fire. Von had previously filmed a music video scene, acting out the execution of a character named Duck, released roughly 6 months before his rival was shot dead in real life. Like this video and think about this. That clip has over 288 million views. Half a year before FBG Duck was gunned down, King Von literally acted out his execution on camera, and that video is now pushing 300 million views. Whatever was happening between these artists on the asphalt and through their headphones, it was no metaphor. It was not just theater. It was a live, brutal record of an active street war playing out in real time, and Lil Durk was absolutely no bystander. As the label head, he gave Von the massive platform and industry cosigns that amplified his voice louder than ever before. An explosive wrongful death lawsuit later claimed that Lil Durk's OTF label, of which King Von was a member, operated as an active criminal enterprise, monetizing a deadly street feud through drill music. The suit alleged both Durk and Von exploited this rivalry with Duck to boost streams, brand deals, and music sales, actively promoting violence for profit. That is the violent world Davon Bennett Jr. and Carlton Weekly's son were born into. A world their fathers built up together and tore down against each other. A world that ultimately left both boys fatherless before they could even begin to understand why. August 4th, 2020, Chicago's upscale Gold Coast. On a Tuesday afternoon, 26-year-old FBG Duck is standing right outside the Dolce & Gabbana boutique on Oak Street, one of the city's premier luxury shopping strips. This was no dark alleyway. This was not a neglected corner of the South Side. This is a high-end avenue where Chicago's wealthy shop in broad daylight, and Duck was right there shopping. According to eyewitness reports, 2 vehicles suddenly pulled up and 4 armed men leaped out. Weekly was shot 16 times. His girlfriend and another bystander, Davon Brinson, were also wounded. Chicago police reportedly failed to secure the scene quickly, leaving Duck bleeding on the pavement for 17 minutes. FBG Duck, born Carlton Weekly, did not survive. He was only 26. His young son will grow up without him. If you are hooked on this investigation, hit subscribe. This brazen hit sent massive shockwaves through Chicago and the entire hip-hop community. This was a clinical, targeted execution executed in one of the busiest, most high-traffic districts in Chicago. Whoever orchestrated it was sending a clear, loud message, not just to Duck, but to the entire world. In January 2023, declassified FBI documents revealed that a confidential informant alleged King Von initially placed a $50,000 bounty on FBG Duck before bumping that price to $100,000. Though King Von himself was fatally shot in Atlanta before facing a judge, investigators identified him as the main gang figure who placed the bounty. Ultimately, 6 affiliates of the O-Block faction of the Black Disciples were put on trial for the murder. 5 O-Block members were eventually arrested and convicted of the slaying. The high-stakes trial lasted 3 months, unearthing mountains of evidence about O-Block's inner workings, how hit orders were handed down, and exactly who knew what. And a massive portion of that evidence pointed not just at the triggermen, but directly at the masterminds who, as prosecutors argue, gave the final green light. The civil lawsuit brought by Duck's mother explicitly names Lil Durk and his late brother, D. Thang, both key OTF executives, claiming they were fully aware and complicit when King Von placed that $100,000 bounty. The filing alleges they either helped orchestrate the fatal hit or actively conspired to cover it up. But long before that filing, and long before the trial wrapped, another sudden death added one more tragic layer to this story. Just 3 months after Duck was gunned down, King Von himself was killed. It happened in Atlanta on November 6, 2020, around 3 a.m. We start in Atlanta, where Davon Bennett and his crew clashed with Quando Rondo's camp outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation soon confirmed the worst: 2 dead and 6 wounded. While being treated for a gunshot wound, 1 survivor was arrested and charged with Bennett's murder. Our sources identified the shooter as 22-year-old Timothy Leaks, a rapper allied with Quando Rondo. By August 2023, his charges were dropped under self-defense laws. In 2020, both FBG Duck and King Von died within 3 months. 2 families shattered. 2 hip-hop communities left mourning this tragic loss. And Lil Durk, mourning the loss of a man he called his brother, was consumed by a rage the feds claim he couldn't hide. He made no effort to conceal his pain after King Von passed. He poured it into social media, interviews, and his music. His December 2020 album, The Voice, was a direct tribute to Von, a nickname Von had earned as one of the most captivating storytellers in drill music. Durk even legally changed his official artist name to The Voice temporarily, but as you and I look at the federal files, that grief allegedly sparked a deadly plot. Prosecutors allege Durk placed a bounty on Rondo, whose real name is Tyen Bowman, to anyone willing to execute the hit. Almost 2 years later, a deadly plot rapidly fell into place. On August 18, 2022, Durk's crew tracked Rondo to a Los Angeles hotel. That same day, DeAndre Wilson and Keith Jones, David Lindsay, Asa Houston, and another suspect flew out from Chicago to San Diego, driving to Los Angeles with travel cash provided by Durk. Arriving in California, the crew linked up with associate Con Grant. Grant, a trusted team member, booked their rooms, bought 4 ski masks, and secured 2 high-end rental cars. On August 19, 2022, the shooters cornered Quando Rondo at a gas station near West Hollywood. They allegedly fired at least 18 rounds directly into his vehicle, but Quando Rondo survived unharmed. Sadly, his cousin, Saviera Robinson, was killed. The hit missed its main target, but left an innocent man dead, sparking a 2-year federal investigation. Drop a like as we follow this story. Durk allegedly text messaged his contact, "Do not book flights under any names linked to me." That single message became a cornerstone of the federal government's entire case. Feds arrested Durk on a Thursday night in South Florida during an escape attempt. An official FBI affidavit reveals Lil Durk was booked on several outbound international flights, departing the very day of his arrest, with tickets to Switzerland and the United Arab Emirates to evade law enforcement. Agents then tracked his reservation for a private jet to Italy, intercepting him right outside the airport terminal. Now, the Grammy-winning Chicago star faces 2 new felony charges in an indictment, accusing him of using coded instructions to trigger the murder-for-hire plot, which ultimately led to the fatal shooting of Georgia rapper Quando Rondo's cousin out in Los Angeles. If found guilty, the rapper faces life behind bars. A judge denied him bond, labeling him a flight risk and citing concerns over potential obstruction of justice. Durk has been locked up since his arrest, and defense lawyers report the artist was thrown into solitary confinement after guards found him with an unauthorized Apple Watch. His legal team claims he has no commissary access, 0 in-person visits, and just 1 phone call a month. By early June 2025, federal prosecutors confirmed they will not seek the death penalty in this trial. Late in 2024, court delays emerged due to newly discovered evidence, plea deal negotiations, and other unexpected legal complications, pushing Durk's trial date back to October 14, 2025. Now you and I must consider the bitter irony here. Locked up and fighting a capital murder case, Durk got word of King Von's son, cut off from the world, with almost 0 calls or visits allowed. Yet, news traveled in. The young sons of the 2 rivals at the heart of this war are choosing peace over violence. In October 2024, while Durk was booked into a federal facility, another legal earthquake struck. Hit like if you are following. FBG Duck's mother filed a massive civil suit aiming to link Lil Durk and King Von directly to her son's gangland murder in Chicago's Gold Coast. This 230-page filing accuses both rappers of conspiring to assassinate FBG Duck in 2020. Subscribe for updates. The list of defendants in this wrongful death lawsuit is massive, naming Lil Durk and the estate of King Von, their high-profile record labels, and the city of Chicago, alongside fashion brand Dolce & Gabbana, 2 private security firms, and the 6 O-Block Black disciples convicted in FBG Duck's execution. As we investigate further, the lawsuit accuses Lil Durk of fueling gang violence by signing O-Block members to his label, OTF, using threats and heavy intimidation, and aggressive reality rap to dominate Chicago's drill music scene in the violent aftermath of that tragic shooting. Durk, O-Block, and his brand built a global empire, capitalizing on podcasts, social media clout, and massive music streaming revenues. The lawsuit states, in essence, they monetized the murder of FBG Duck, but his mother, Lashina Weekly, refused to stay silent. In the tragic aftermath, she begged his neighborhood not to retaliate, wanting absolutely no more bloodshed in her son's name. "I am here today to ask for peace in the city of Chicago," Weekly pleaded during a press conference. "I am asking that his fans, friends of my son, to please not seek retaliation in his death. That raw plea from a grieving mother holds an entirely new weight when you compare it to the recent viral photos of her grandson spending time with King Von's young son. Please like this video, because the internet instantly understood the gravity of this moment. This was not just two kids hanging out. This was the new generation making a choice their fathers never could. Von and Duck never chose peace. Durk and Duck never chose peace. The O-Block and Tookaville factions around them never chose peace. Their choices instead filled courtrooms, filled cemeteries, and filled a massive 230-page federal lawsuit. And now, while Lil Durk sits in a cell with 0 visits and 1 monthly call, and Duck's mother fights for court accountability, you and I see the sons of these two massive rivals choosing a different path. Durk's reaction to this viral moment, whether sent in a text through an outside contact, or a statement shared by his team, or the heavy grief in the music he still drops from behind bars, reflects a man who has lost almost everything. He lost Von, and he lost his brother, D-Thang. His cousin Nunu was shot and killed in May 2014. Then his manager Chino was killed in March 2015. The heavy losses stacked up year after year, and by the time Durk entered a federal facility in 2024, he had spent a decade burying loved ones. So when King Von's young son, Devin Bennett Jr., a child who barely had time to remember his late father, sat down face to face with FBG Duck's son, and Lil Durk found out, the message he sent was not from a gang leader defending his block. It was the warning of a man who knows what happens when kids inherit an endless war. Whether Durk approved of it or warned against it, or simply watched with the deep, complicated emotion only a survivor could feel, our main takeaway remains the same. These children did not ask for this war. They were born into it. King Von left 3 children. His youngest, Demi Rowe, was born in July 2021, 8 months after Von died. She never knew him. Duck's children are growing up with their father's murder detailed in a 230-page federal lawsuit and court transcripts. They see their grandmother on television constantly calling for street justice. They are forced to grow up with their father's name permanently tied to one of the most infamous, brutal gangland executions in Chicago's history. While far away in a federal facility, restricted to just 1 phone call a month and 0 visits, Lil Durk is sitting alone with all of it. The pain, the lawsuit, his memories of Von, his career, and over a decade of loss, and the news that 2 little boys decided they do not have to inherit their father's violent feud. That is the truly groundbreaking headline here. Subscribe to our channel to follow this trial, because this peaceful moment speaks volumes. Because if children born into Chicago's deadliest street war can put down weapons and unite, then every toxic diss track, every bounty, and every single bullet starts to look like the senseless tragedy it always was. A completely avoidable disaster. A war without victors. A dark legacy that these children are now, quietly and bravely, trying to rewrite forever.